the final frontier. These are the explorations of scientists, sociologists, and AI technologists at Maynooth University. Our mission: to create autonomous drones, air traffic flight management, and seek out new solutions for our civilization. To boldly go where no drone has gone before. Experience knowledge set free at our CAO Information Evening, Wednesday, January 9th.
Maynooth University. No bounds.
You ain't shit! I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Well, fans can be the harshest critics, you know.
And they often are.
A wife is often the harshest critic of her husband.
I thought I was invincible. That's what you're trained to believe as a sports person.
There was 4 million people in Ireland who knew much more about managing football teams than I did. When it comes to music, I can spoof with the best.
Your sporting career is the best time you'll have, and you know you have to hang on to it for as long as you like, because everything else is pretty crappy.
And this is not lies. Stephen Rothschild has never spoken to Jim McGuinness in his life.
All right, welcome back. It is our Saturday panel, our first Saturday panel of 2019, so we're going to look ahead to the new year. I'm joined in the studio by Sinéad O'Carroll, news editor of the Journal.ie, Andy Lee, former world boxing champion, and Banty McEnaney, current manager of the Monaghan under-20s and former inter-county manager, all over the shop. Thanks for coming in. Happy New Year, one and all.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Is this the year we're going to see Andy Lee back in the ring?
Never.
No.
Were you a goal setter at the start of the year? Were you someone, when you were fighting, that wrote down a list of targets?
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah, you always did want to win this fight or go this far or get to a certain level, and now it's just get fit, you know.
Same as
that used to be a given. Now it's just try and get back in shape, yeah.
Yeah.
You're the January gym person like everybody else.
I know, yeah. Well, I did my first run this morning.
Oh yeah? How far did you go?
A couple of miles, but a few squats, and I'm feeling those, yeah. A few squats at St. Patrick's Park this morning.
Do you like running?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's good. It's good. I think you're more happy when it's done, isn't it? The endorphins, you get the buzz off it, like. But I'm not. Why are you doing it? It's torture.
I'm with you, Nate, and I didn't bother getting my first run yet. Maybe that could be a good goal, wouldn't it, for the year?
Exactly. Get the first run in the belt and take it from there.
Well, I've entered middle age, so I do yoga and play golf now.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, how's you did tell us before you've started your golfing career.
Yeah, I got my handicap this morning. Got my cards in over the winter.
Oh yeah. What'd you get? What handicap did he give you?
30.
Outrageous.
Yeah. Highest for a woman is 36. So
yeah, that's outrageous. A handicap of 30. Bandit territory.
We'll see.
Do you write down all your goals for the year?
Usually I do, actually. Yeah, I haven't got around to it yet this year, so that's probably a bad start.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually sporting-wise, but yeah, otherwise as well. Yeah.
It's like we kind of in this until Monday. It's like the new year, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
trying to
kids go back to school and things like that. It's like in this kind of weird little time zone, isn't it?
It doesn't start till Monday, I think.
I was just thinking that the new year doesn't really start till the 10th of January because of the middle of the 1st of January is in the middle of this week, and you're saying, oh, we'll let it lie till next Monday and we'll start kick off next Monday. So
the Monday's not a good day to start anything, you know.
Well,
start Tuesday or Wednesday.
you have to pick some day to start. You can't keep putting it off.
What are you most looking forward to in 2019, Banty?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I suppose the Ireland-England Six Nations game, I think it's going to be a huge occasion, especially with the rivalry there. But I suppose the Rugby World Cup, then it's the expectation is really growing. Joe Smith, in his last year with Ireland, he's built a phenomenal squad there. And on a local terms, probably the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is Monaghan v Cavan in Breffni Park. That local derby, it's an old firm derby. Monaghan have played them 3 times.
Who's Celtic and who's Rangers?
Well, Cavan is Rangers in our case. But, there's been only a point or two between Monaghan and Cavan over the last 3 or 4 championship matches, albeit, may I add, that Monaghan won all of them. And it's going to be huge because, Monaghan has a realistic chance of winning the Ulster Championship again. I'm sure it's one of their goals. It's 2015 since the 1-1. So I'm really looking forward to it, yeah.
The Rugby World Cup, I think, is probably a common theme for everybody as one of the main focuses of the year. The only shame is that it's so far away.
Yeah, we were just talking off air about that it really is 2 seasons. Like, they have to play the Six Nations with winning the Six Nations in mind. It's not about preparation for the World Cup, but that has to be playing on their minds because the November tests were about preparation for the World Cup. So it just seems like it'll be a really
it's going
tough
to be a long,
thing.
long run in,
yeah,
isn't it?
and figuring out now, Andy, when I was saying this outside, I was saying, you know, which games do you really want to win and which games are you okay with losing? Because do you want to go into a World Cup with having not lost in a whole year, and then you're going and Andy was like, yeah, of course you do. Like, just get all the wins under your belt.
Do you think will it take the eye off the ball slightly for the Six Nations next year's World Cup?
I don't think.
Is it the most important competition next year for the rugby?
I think they have to. I think Joe Schmidt will have to go in thinking every game, because when you look at it, they can't lose to France at home. They can't lose to England. They can't lose to Wales. You can't lose to Scotland because they're in our group. So you
definitely can't lose to Italy.
And you definitely can't lose to Italy. So you're going in. You have to go in with we're winning a Grand Slam mentality.
It's one of the keys of what Joe Schmidt's done, though, that actually Ireland want to head into this as, no matter what happens, the All Blacks will be favourites, but essentially is the best team in the world. That people are looking around going, over the last year, Ireland have consistently beaten everybody.
Yeah, I think
that there's no chink there.
No, and with Joe Schmidt's team and the men playing on it, the World Cup's not a success unless they win it. Like, we're at a position now with an Ireland team going into a World Cup with, unless you've won it, I think we can all talk afterwards if there's a semi-final or a final that yes, there is a success for rugby there. But for those men and for Joe Schmidt, the only success for them, I think, is winning it. We haven't heard that much from them, but Lara Moore let that slip. You know, we want to win the World Cup. I'd say he got into a little bit of trouble for that, but
a lot of people are going to travel over, but still I'd imagine because it's Japan, you're talking a couple of thousand, maybe 2,000-3,000 people go for 1 or 2 games and go for a couple of weeks. Again, probably not a huge amount are going to be able to afford to go for the full
insanely expensive
6 or 7.
yeah.
I think someone say maybe over 10 grand if you want to go for
per person
for the full thing. So again, it limits the amount of people. So maybe that again will ease the pressure somewhat. It's not like the last World Cup in England where we take over Cardiff, you take over the entire city, that you're sort of away from it a little bit.
But the thing about pressure in rugby, like, they're under pressure from the last 5-6 years to going that well. Joe Schmidt has done such a phenomenal job since come in there. I think it comes with the job, and they're dealing really well. He has dealt really well with the pressure of winning with Ireland. And, like, you know, even in the last game I was at it in the Viva there with the All Blacks, like, it was, albeit a test, we call them challenge matches in GAA. It was certainly an unforgettable place to be that evening.
Yeah, you go to all the games, or do you just turn up for the All Blacks matches?
You know, I go funny. This last few years I've turned. I tell you what I love about it, and it disappoints me about the GAA where we've went the last few years, is I love the physicality of it. I absolutely love the physicality that comes with rugby, the respect that comes with it. Both those things I think is phenomenal.
I think when you're talking about the pressure, though, the quarter-final, because obviously we've never won a quarter-final in the World Cup, that quarter-final is going to be New Zealand or South Africa. So I think those lads won't know pressure until they're standing, like, hopefully, like, lining out for that quarter-final, because you're thinking Ireland this has been our banana skin every single other year, and now we're facing either the All Blacks or South Africa, who are going well. So I think that'll be when we'll know.
From again, from a GAA point of view, I'm as a big ball man, a Gaelic a football man, I'm concerned of maybe the road they're going down compared to where hurling is going. And for me, the hurling championship of 2019, it is going to be unbelievable. There's 6 or 7 teams can win the All-Ireland. It's going to be probably the biggest thing in sport. It's our national sport.
What do you mean by that? Because I think everyone is in agreement that the more hurling we see, the better. And the last year has proven that, where not many people feel the more football we see, the better.
Oh, absolutely not. There's the problem. It's been lopsided football with Dublin being so dominant and their drive for 5. But we take hurling at the moment. You know, can you rule out Limerick winning the next All-Ireland? Cork. Liam Sheedy's back with Tipperary. Pressure on Sheedy. He won't like me saying that. There's an All-Ireland in Tipperary. Galway. Kilkenny, we can't rule them out. It's a growing sport, and the physicality of it. I wish the referees would come out in referee Gaelic football, the referees hurling, because
in
half
Gaelic
time
football,
and
they just I find it really difficult for referees, because what's a tackle? Like, if I asked you what a tackle is in football and I asked you, Nathan, you both have different answers. So it's a really big problem, especially when the players are getting bigger. So you're saying, like, okay, that looked like it wasn't really fair because your man is 6'5" and built, and because we haven't defined the tackle, it's really difficult to referee and also kind of difficult to watch at times.
And you've probably been at these conferences that the GAA hosts from time to time, where the referees come in and explain themselves, and I think it's been borne out from what you hear from them that when you sit the 32 inter-county managers in a room together and they play various tackles. There's very little agreement on whether it was a free, shouldn't have been a free, yellow card, red card.
Yeah, well, the interpretation, it's all about interpretation. This is the problem. There's no definite tackle, as Sinead said. And I was at loads of conferences where...
Would you say that the referee's chief is at fault for all these?
No, I wouldn't say the referees. I wouldn't say the referee's chief is, but I think we need to get more consistency. And the only way you're going to get more consistency is get more professional and bring them on. Like, my big problem with referees is how we're dealing with them. Right? It should be like a football team. Your top 15 referees referee, and if someone's not going well, he's dropped out, and someone else comes in.
But
we're not doing that.
But it's not really their fault that it's not consistent, right? Like, we have to, like, they're looking at the rules and, you know, the hand passing and the sideline kicks and all of that, but like the nub of the problem, like, this all comes from us not knowing what a tackle is. And like, yeah, if you define the tackle, then you won't need to play this possession game that it's turned into. You won't need to count the amount of hand passes, because people will be able to know, well, I can kick this ball because it's safe to do so, or whatever. Like,
and the other major problem is they're chopping and changing at the rules. They have to bring in 4 or 5 rules there, rule changes. Every manager in the country's given out. I've talked to 4 or 5 referees. You know, 3 hand passes. Actually, I was at a McKenna Cup match there where there was 2 or 3 goal chances, an opportunity for 3 or 4 goal chances with a 4th pass, and it was coughed up because the next hand pass was going to be a free out. We chop and change. You're 100% right in it. We haven't defined the tackle, and until we do that, we're going nowhere fast.
Yeah, well, we're just going to stay in a possession game, and it's not as fun.
The one thing that we could have changed, so we're all, look, the game has got, this is facts. It hasn't got enjoyable to play. It hasn't got enjoyable to manage. It hasn't got enjoyable to coach because of defensive systems. And I'm a manager. If you're not doing a defensive system, then you're going to be blown out of the water. The one thing that could have brought in to change the whole psyche of the game was that possibly where 3 players had to stay in their own half of the field at all times would have done away slightly with the blanket defence, rather than trying to change the hand pass rule.
On the other rule then, the inside mark.
Yeah, not a bad rule.
Not a bad rule. I was looking at this wondering, like, is there a potential for teams to sort of put in a bit of a loophole whereby, say, Dublin, for example, they're not going to do it, but if you've somebody of the calibre of Dean Rock, who you play him out towards the 45, you get him free, he gets the mark, you know he's going to put it over the bar. Like, that you somehow find a way of isolating your best free taker to win the ball inside the 45 every time.
I actually think it might bring back in the Kieran Donaghys of this world. You know, big man on the edge of the square. Now, if it did bring back in that where long ball would be in and won by an inside forward, that would be, to bring back in the kicking and catching would be. I actually think it is the one rule that could help the game. Bring back in the big man on the edge of the square.
Mark has worked and very seamlessly, why not try it again?
Do you see anyone
beat Dublin?
Can anybody beat Dublin? No, there's no team in Ireland can beat Dublin. I think Dublin is going to get their 5 in a row to be the greatest team of all times in the GAA history. Pat Spallan's team couldn't make it in the 80s. He'd be disappointed maybe to see Dublin win 5 in a row. No, I don't see it. Like, the reality where the problem, the challengers were Mayo. I think they've missed their opportunity. The challengers were Kerry. Now they're rebuilding. But the one team that is going to change it again is Kerry, and there lies the problem for the rest of the country. Kerry's going to dominate the next phase. They've won 5 minors in a row, the first Gaelic team ever to win 5 in a row.
You think that's going to translate into sustained success at senior level?
100%.
Ahead of Dublin?
It will. Dublin's phase will fade out. It'll fade out in the next 2 years, 3 years. But they'll definitely win 5 in a row.
I think you're probably in the minority in feeling that.
No, I think, you know, like, I remember thinking at the All-Ireland final, actually, when they were going for 3 in a row, right? And Bernard Brogan was dropped for the replay. 3 or 4, Paul Flynn was dropped for the replay, and I says, this man has already won next year's All-Ireland by dropping these fellas. But prior to that, I thought, you know, when he'd go, when Bernard Brogan would go, when Connolly would go, it would take a big hole in this Dublin team. But instead of that, it's better and stronger.
Yeah, I didn't think that he'd win one without Dermot Connolly playing, and then he goes and does it pretty easily.
Well, that might be one of the stories of the upcoming months, whether we see Connolly back.
Kerry has phenomenal players coming. I have managed against them at this level. I've seen them. They've actually a brilliant minor team coming next year again. They will translate it. They definitely will translate it. And the problem for the rest of the country is you're going to be dominant for the next year or 2 by Dublin, and then you're going to be dominant by 3 or 4 years by Kerry.
Yeah, I think we give football a bad time at the moment. And there were decent matches last year, like Kildare Mayo in Conlitz. You know, it was a great game. There were some good games in the Ulster Championship. So it wasn't a completely like lopsided year in terms of, you know, there was no good games to watch. It was just when it gets to the business end, you know, there was no team that was going out against Dublin looking like they could beat Dublin. They were going out and lining up against a team that they were terrified of, and that needs to change at the business end
and that's
for
not
us to have a good year.
Be a quick fix either. And even you think of that Mayo Kildare game down in Newbridge, and it turned out to be a great game,
yeah, it was
as well as a great
game.
atmosphere. Like, that's one of the big problems that the Football Championship has that was really amplified again this year, that you go to any big hurling match, there's 30,000-40,000 people there. It creates a sense of occasion, whereas you can count on one hand the amount of occasions in the Football Championship last year. Even the big days at Croke Park now I was at that double header for the first round of the Super 8s the day Dublin played Donegal, and it was just dead. There was no sense.
Croke Park's not the venue for these games.
It was actually, we got that wrong. I think the GAA got that wrong. It's the last game in the Super 8 should have been played in Croke Park. The first game should have been played at provincial venues or home venues. For instance, if that had to be, we say Dublin and Monaghan in Clonus in the first game, that would have been a huge game, huge atmosphere, 30,000 people there, compact in. Look what happened in Newbridge. I think we got that completely wrong. But to be fair, it was a learning process. It was the first year of the Super 8, so I think we need to get the first game needs to be a home venue for whatever team, and Dublin needs to travel out of Croke Park as well. Another sticky one. But the reality is we only had a handful of good games in the Championship last year, and the only major sport in Ireland that's behind us at the moment is soccer. It's unwatchable, actually.
Well, it's been unwatchable certainly for the past year, but I guess that's one of the things that we'll be looking forward to as well, is the return of Mick McCarthy and these European Championship qualifiers, and whether he can somehow, in the short space of time he has, Andy, inspire the team to get to Euro 2020. Because if we're sitting here in a year's time, there's no doubt what the big story of 2020 will be. If Ireland qualify for the Euros, it'll be 2 home games at the Aviva Stadium.
Yeah, and well, I guess it can only get better, can't it? I think he's on the hiding to nothing, really. Like, you can't really do any worse. I don't know, I still feel a bit of grief for O'Neill, and so I know the results weren't good and the style of play wasn't good, so he kind of had to go in that way.
Why?
Why did I feel? Because I just liked him. I liked him as a manager and as a man, and I thought, I don't know, he was doing the best he could with the resource. I think the game against Denmark, I know it's a long time ago, but just meant those changes at half time and then took the midfield out of it, just kind of put the nail in the coffin. The kind of writing was on the wall after that.
What are you looking forward to in 2019?
From a boxing standpoint, there's nothing really set in stone, and even when they are assigned, the fights can never really, guaranteed of happening. But
it feels though 2018 was a very good year for boxing.
It was probably the best year in the history of boxing in terms of fights that happened, big fights happening, and not just happened, but living up to the hype and all that. In some ways, they went beyond the hype and exceeded it. And just, I guess, seeing how the heavyweight division plays out with Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, and how the three of them match up. There should be at least 2 fights between the three of them this year.
Fury Joshua is the big one.
That's the big one this side, yeah. But obviously, any of them fighting Wilder in America or over here is also just as big. But I think just about the egos putting the egos aside and making the fights happen. And but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see.
Where does McGregor come into your world of sport?
Nowhere really. He doesn't come into it.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to see what he does this year. Does he go back to boxing? I don't think so.
You don't think he's good at it?
No, I don't. Not to be unfair to him, but I don't think he's a boxer. He's an MMA fighter and UFC fighter, and they're talking about him having a rematch with that Khabib, but that's a tough fight again. Like, you see how far away he was in the first fight. I don't know how he possibly levels that. Do you? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out in the next few weeks as to what's going to happen with him and Khabib, and whether there is going to be a rematch. If you were to put your life on it then at the end of 2019, of those three, of Wilder, Fury, of Joshua, who would be top dog?
I think Tyson Fury would be top dog. I think he has enough shown enough in the first fight to beat Wilder. he's only going to get better because he'll have a longer way. Like he'll be further away from the break. And the time off. He'll be fitter, more conditioned, and I think he'd boxed Anthony Joshua all night and win an easy points decision against him.
Right.
The gulf in skills is huge. I think Joshua's still a learning fighter. He's still learning as he goes. He's still like a developing fighter. But Tyson Fury is much more accomplished and seasoned and has like good ring generalship and craft.
With Irish fighting, then at the moment we've 2 world champions in Katie Taylor and TJ Doheny.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, do you expect more? Or
I would expect
this year
more.
Michael Conlon, Jason Quigley, or might it even still be a little bit too soon for them?
Maybe a bit too soon for them yet. I think towards the end of the year they'll be challenging, I think. But I think there's still big fights for Mike Conlon. He's been confirmed to fight in Madison Square Garden, St. Patrick's Day weekend. That's always a big event. And then I know I can't say too much, but there's big plans for a summer fight for him here in Belfast, which will be a huge event. Against a very good opponent who people will be interested in.
That would be great. We haven't had something like that in a while.
Yeah, and then Katie Taylor, obviously, it's just a big year for her. She's a unified champion now, but she's still kind of not struggling for credibility, but recognition from the sport in general. I think she kind of has that, but she still can take it to another level by she fights.
She has to get the fights. So
yeah, Amanda Serrano, it seems she's kind of putting that to the end of the year. Delphine Ponsoon, the Belgian fighter who they fought in the amateurs, she's undefeated WBC champion. That could be a very good fight for Katie. And to be honest, they're all not easily winnable fights, but they're all very winnable fights and ones which Katie would be a favourite going into, but it's just about getting the fights and making them happen.
Vincent Hogan's talking to Billy Walsh in the Irish Independent today, and actually the story of 2019 for Irish boxing may well be what happens with the amateur game. And if disaster upon disaster they were to rule boxing out of the 2020 games in Tokyo, which would just be catastrophic for Irish sport. For
Irish sport, and then individual stories like Kelly Harrington, you know, waiting to drop to the 60 kg, waiting to see if you can get into Tokyo, and then if it's not there, yeah, it would be horrific because so much of our Olympic funding goes towards you know, getting medals in boxing. So many
Why
of our
is this
medals.
the case? Where lies the biggest problems?
With the president of the amateur boxing and the levels of corruption.
I don't know how long do we have here? You know.
There are a few
interestingly, like the World Championships this year, male World Championships are in Sochi, Russia, and it's been deemed in non-compliance with WADA because it's being held in Russia. So already they're out of line, and like the big statement from Rakimov, who's this guy from Uzbekistan, who's like he's an internationally known criminal. He has like ties to the mafia and all this. He's been appointed the president, and
so corruption wouldn't.
His big end of year statement
wouldn't
was
be that
like,
much odds with it.
No.
Well, it's the IOC
and boxing
had warned
go
them in
like,
advance if he was elected that they'd be putting their place at stake.
It goes hand in hand, but you know, boxing and corruption and
the solution will probably be they're not going to let the boxing association, but the athletes will be able to go under kind of what they did with Russia, like fudge
it's like for last year, because even like the last Olympics, there was professional boxers at the last Olympics, and it didn't really work out. You know,
it's a pity because it's a brilliant individual sport, and it's a pity they can't get it cleaned up even worldwide and even here in Ireland, because there's a lot of people actually, sponsors don't want to go into boxing because they don't want to be associated with it.
Yeah, of course, it's the worst. Like from a corporate point of view, it's no goes on. Yeah.
It's a pity.
Yeah, and I guess it's the same with every sports people. The current boxers, it's very hard to expect them to come out and speak out about any of this, because you're just focusing on yourself.
You saw what happened to the Irish team in Rio when the judge came out and that Michael Gallagher, the Irish judge, came out and spoke in the newspaper in the lead up to the Olympics, saying how corrupt it was about the judge and how he'd been approached to fix fights, and the Irish team were completely blackmarked and they affected the team going into the so they have to toe the line. Like you can fight the system, but then the system is so big, you know, it doesn't serve you in the end.
You still have to go into the ring,
and
the game hasn't changed.
But somebody's going to have to take a stand somewhere to change it.
It'll take an alliance of like Western countries like America, England, France, Ireland, and Germany, and come together and try and do this. And there's been some talk about it happening over the years, but they never do.
Happened in figure skating. I'm just going to get some figure skating mentioned here. After 2002, after the judging corruption in Salt Lake City, that they had to come together and change it big time, and they did. And there has been no real unfairness seen in the sport.
Going out of the Olympics for to make him.
Yeah, it took a huge scandal. They had to
just the shock of it to actually
a scandal at the Olympics where someone actually is given a medal that they shouldn't have been.
A lot of this year as well will be focused on looking ahead to Tokyo in 2020, and like one of the great successes of the last year is how many individual athletes we've had excelling at World Championship events, and I think people are finally coming around and realising that like 2020 already is shaping up to be possibly our best ever Olympics, but for a lot of those athletes now there's suddenly a little bit of pressure, there's a bit of expectation on them.
Yeah, and for athletics maybe it's not, you know, the best ever. You're not talking like a huge medal haul, but you're probably talking more athletes in finals, more athletes kind of taking the next step. So yeah, the World Championships, Athletics Championships are at Doha towards the end of the year, September, October, again kind of going back to the rugby. It's going to be a long stretch, but also really good to see where people are. Like we were talking about Thomas Barr the other day, and obviously he's got the bronze at the European Championships this year. He'll be going to the Worlds. Most of the best hurlers are Europeans, so you're not talking about going up too much of a level for him. See if he can get a medal and go in then to the Olympic year, like really riding a wave of confidence. I remember speaking to him after his race in Rio, and he was kind of looking at his times in the previous year and going like, I would question that time. He went so fast, you know, if I was looking at it. So he brought up the questions before we did. And he just said that big occasion, he's just a complete big occasion sprinter. So I'm really excited to see what he can do now with that experience behind him coming forth. He has the medal now, a little bit of pressure might be off. See how he does in the 2019 World Championships, and then go into an Olympic year, hopefully injury free. And yeah, that's what I love about this year. When you're in between Olympics, you get to kind of really see who will be medal contenders or final contenders. Probably a bit early for some of our young ones like the under 18s and the under 20s who did well this year. It's probably a bit soon for the likes of Adeleke, but again, if you get to finals, if you get that senior experience under our belt this year, we'll see how it goes. And then from the winter side, you get all the retirements from the Olympics, and you get the first, you know, the babies coming through who's going to spend the next 4 years kind of working towards that.
So you're
gold
not just
medal.
a once every 4 year Winter Olympics.
No, I love the year afterwards.
Still watch Ski Sunday.
So I don't. It's more just the sports that I like. I get into, but for that year, you can really figure out. Okay, the retirees are gone, and now the new kids will come. Which ones are good enough? And you'll always have a weird year where you'll have someone win a world championship who probably doesn't really deserve to be world champion, but the others have retired. The kids aren't experienced enough. So
and do you go out and cover the Olympics, Sinead, yourself? Do you be actually on the ground?
We were there for Rio. So. It's a bit far away.
That was quite one, wasn't it? Not much happened in Rio at all.
We had a drug scandal before we started, an arrest. Yeah, it was an interesting old few days.
You've down as well as...
That's just you guys, not the sports.
The journalists making it up again.
If only. Hopefully a better year for the Camogie Championship.
Yeah, going back to the rules, I think.
I was going to say, the one thing when the week of the Camogie final, when we were doing our panel, like the physicality was the one thing that came up with it was 3 players we had on saying, like, you literally cannot tackle.
Yeah.
It's beyond a joke.
Yeah, and the final really played out like that. And for people who are only coming to the games, because RTÉ obviously show the semi-finals now, but a lot of people will only see the final, or they'll only see a little bit of coverage on the Sunday game. And we are really at a point now, especially because ladies football, as kind of the competitor in terms of participation and attendance, that they're doing so well, and they have so many of the things fixed that the football men's don't. But in the Camogie, we just need to get away from, like, technically Camogie is a non-contact sport, but you can't play hurling in a non-contact way, and we don't. We go out every day, and if you went to any club or county game that's not in Croke Park, you will see it played out in the way that it should be played out. You'll see interesting physical games, and then it gets to the final.
So it's been refereed totally differently at club level?
I think it is, yeah, like when... It depends. It's again inconsistency, but there will be, most of the time you go out and you're playing a contact sport, and then you go to the finals, and they do. I think that they're more refereed to the letter of the law in the final, because it's the big day out, the lights, the cameras, the action is there, so people feel like they have to be completely consistent with the rule book, which obviously you should be, but it just ruins the game. There's so many frees, and even the free that won the game last year was a nothing free. It was like, it could have. it ruined the game. I remember leaving the stadium just being really downbeat about the whole thing because, it wasn't the referee's fault because he was doing it to the letter of the law. It wasn't the girls' fault because they can only play the whistle, and it ruined the spectacle.
It's a pity because there's been a phenomenal sport really for a long period, but there's no doubt ladies football has taken the lead. And the physicality, actually, ladies football has developed unbelievable over the last 7 or 8 years. But this is even my problem with Gaelic football. They're watering down the physicality of it, and it's been, this is a big credit I give Cody and Sheedy and these boys. They would allow no rule change for about 15 years there in the hurling. There was no physicality taken out of it. In fact, it got tougher to play hurling, more manly to play hurling. The GAA managers, I believe, allowed the physicality to be taken out of the game. And at the end of the day, no more than camogie, you want physicality. If you haven't got physicality, you have nothing. Well,
the physicality was taken out of Gaelic football because we had so many managers who decided that winning was the most important thing. And obviously that sounds obvious, but if winning is the most important thing, kicking the ball then becomes completely dangerous. Why would you kick the ball when you can keep possession of it? Yeah. And so if winning becomes your end game at all costs. Now, Jim Gavin has been able to do it in Dublin and still have an entertaining team, so that's his, I think, contribution to it, but it's so rare to be able to do both.
Yeah, but the rule change, even bringing in the black card, when we brought in the black card, I felt it was going to be detrimental to the game because now managers were definitely going to take more men behind the ball, because if you left a man isolated one-on-one at the back, he was liable to get a black card, your best defender. I think we have changed the rules and taken the physicality and watered down the physicality of the game. Instead of, I think we need to get away from that and make it a more manly game, more physical. Like, supporters come to see physicality. Yes, they come to see lovely catches. Yes, they come to see lovely scores and fluent play, but they come to see physicality.
I guess at times then physicality and tuggery is too far a word, they almost get mixed up. Actually, there's nothing better than a good 50-50 shoulder, two players tearing into each other.
Yeah, and probably the camogie is a good example of, if you take it completely out, it ruins the spectacle. So you're not asking, we're not asking to be allowed, shoulder each other into Kingdom Come, but you need to be able to tackle and touch each other.
Wrap a hurl around someone's neck. That's not what people are looking for. But
but you just want it to be played in the intention of the game.
It seems, and I said we had 3 players in here at the weekend of the hurling at the camogie final, all who played in the championship. All 3 who were in total agreement that they need to change this. Is there any sign of it being changed?
I don't know the internal workings of the Camogie Association enough. I would really hope so, just because, and I don't like pitting ladies football against camogie, but they are a competitor in that way. We do have to catch up. Obviously they've had TG Cahir's support for over 10 years, which has been integral to how they've been able to grow both in participation and attendance, and we need to do something, and if that is as radical as completely changing the rules, and I think it has to be, because I think that final last year, just if you watched it, I don't think there's anybody in the sporting organisation could say that this is how we want it to play out.
And what are the origins of camogie being a non-contact sport?
Well, it's as old as, the Camogie Association is almost as old as the GAA Association, so I would just presume it's from...
Yeah, because it's only even in the last few years I've realised that it was a non-contact sport.
Yeah, because it's not.
But I would have thought actually that it would have been sold as a non-contact sport, that if people are worried about their kids going into a sport and they might get hurt, if you're telling them, well, actually, this is a non-contact sport, they're fine.
I think I was playing it about 20 years when I was told it was a non-contact sport. I was like, oh, really? I didn't know that.
That explains a few things.
You kind of know that you're not technically allowed shoulder the same way the boys shoulder, but, I've dislocated my shoulder a few times, and that's probably because I've been, gotten a few shoulders over the years, and it just doesn't make sense. You can't play hurling and have it as a non-contact game. So camogie is played as a contact sport. It's only on those occasions.
It's fell behind on promotion-wise as well. Lidl which of them has joined the ladies GAA, like Sprahan, along with TG Carr. They have promoted ladies football unbelievable over the last 5 or 6 years. So camogie has fell behind.
Yeah, and you can see that in the attendance of the finals. And obviously they're just headline figures because it's the finals and it doesn't translate all the way down through the year. But 50,000 at a football final last year, compared to 21 at the camogie. So it is a good way behind, which is a pity, because the sport is there, the talent is there. We do need a few more teams to be competitive. It's been two horse race over the last few years.
15 years ago that would have been 20,000 versus 5,000.
15 years ago, we had Wexford 15 years ago, so we had huge attendances when Wexford were doing well because Wexford travelled to the team. So these things come into it as well. If Wexford got back up, if Tipperary, are signs of Tipperary doing well again. So if we got all the teams competitive, much like the hurling, like at the moment in the hurling, you have 7 or 8 teams that could possibly win it. You need to get that to that level.
Well, I'm
in
saying
the camogie
15 years ago, you would have 20,000 at the camogie final. You would have only had 5 or 6 or 7 at the ladies' Gaelic football final.
I'm not sure about the numbers for the football, but yeah, for the camogie,
15 years ago,
yeah, no, it's changed. But the TG Catter thing is massive. Like if you're putting on a sport week in, week out on the television, people are starting to get used to it. They're used to what the rivalries are. That was really interesting last year that, Dublin had won All-Ireland but never beaten Cork. So that maintains an interest in the final, even though Dublin are going in as favourites and, they're probably going to go into this year's as favourites. But there are those stories to tell. People will be watching Mayo very closely as well next year after everything that happened this year. People know the stories, people know the faces.
It takes an odd controversy to get the sport up and running, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like
and
Mayo.
And camogie will always have that because hurlers have that. It's harder to promote hurling people than it is to promote footballers with the helmets, and it's generally a more less superstar sport, and camogie has that as well.
Text in, always the ref's fault. Maybe managers should be more positive tactically and stop turning a blind eye to the off the ball stuff their teams indulge in, stopping other teams. Brendan from Offaly and Kerry. P.S. I'm not a ref and don't know any refs.
He's a ref.
You know a few refs, Banty, and you're always on their side, yeah?
Absolutely. I always back the referee. It's interesting to see Kerry. They're the king of physicality and they're supposed to be pure footballers. Anything but. I managed against them. Anything but. You take Tomas O'Shea, Darragh O'Shea, them boys. There were no Mona Lisas or no easy touches.
Yeah, that's for sure. We're watching Manchester United are 2-0 up against Reading in the FA Cup. One of your highlights is a potential title race in the Premier League and maybe Liverpool bringing it right to the wire.
It'll be interesting, I don't want to talk too much about Liverpool, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes. It's the most exciting year for a long time, isn't it? Tottenham are kind of in it.
Well, as a Premier League commentator, I hope to God there is a title race, because for the last 4 years I've spent the last 3 months of the season travelling to nothing games.
Let's see what United do with Solskjaer at the helm and see if they can make top 4 and see how Sarri does at Chelsea. It's an interesting year, and it's, as well as the teams, there's the managers and the personalities involved that kind of make it, kind of add a subplot to the whole thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's definitely the most interesting year in a while. That's not just from a Liverpool fan. That is.
Will it not be good for soccer? And it's not that I have any love for or have any great time of watching it. I think as bad as Gaelic is quite boring to watch. But would it not be good for the game for Liverpool to win this one?
Mightn't be the person to ask there on that.
I think it would be great for the game. You're dead right.
You don't seem to think that.
I'm a Man United fan, but I was actually hoping. I wasn't hoping, but I was happy City won the other night because.
But it tightens the gap for a start. It makes it competitive.
Yeah, I know. It'll be a long summer listening to Liverpool fans.
There was an article in the papers yesterday saying that it would be a good thing for football if Liverpool won the title because of Jurgen Klopp essentially, and the long wait and the passion of the supporters.
Yeah.
But and the way they wouldn't begrudge him after
they could win one. I would imagine nobody wants them to win 2.
If you win the league, you deserve to win it because it's played out over so many games and over so long a period, isn't it?
And they're really enjoyable to watch going back. Like they are really enjoyable to watch.
That goal was sensational against City. That equalising goal was.
They have a huge support, Liverpool, haven't they? Huge support, and there seems to be a big rivalry between Liverpool supporters and everybody else. I don't follow the sport at all.
Certainly, I guess it's
very quiet there.
I'm just listening. As you can tell from my commentaries, I'm very unbiased in these situations, as always. The Women's World Cup is on this summer as well in France.
Yeah, so Ireland obviously aren't there, but it's in France, so I think there was huge interest in the last one. This one will obviously be better timing-wise. A few teams, USA are always going as favourites. They're wildly favourites again, but a few teams that will...
have England a chance?
England, France, the Netherlands. So there's a few teams there that do have a chance. But yeah, USA are obviously so much more together and professional for a lot longer than everybody else in the sport. But hopefully some good games, because the standard was pretty good last time. 4 years later, I think the standard will have increased a lot. We lost to the Netherlands in our qualifying games, and the Netherlands wouldn't be in that top 4, but they'll do well, yeah. And the going back to physicality, that team, they were superb to watch, and just the physiques and how far ahead of Ireland they were was so obvious when we were in Tala. So I think, it's always nice to have a World Cup year, and I think, with the way it falls, again, going back to women's sport being a little bit behind, there's 24 teams, so there will be, I'd say, a lot of
one-sided games,
cricket scored games, but hopefully we'll get through those and get some good games at the business end.
Yeah, you said the fact it's close by in France, the timings will be good, and also the fact England are going into it as one of the better teams. They've got a good profile. It'll be live on the BBC. They're in the same group as Scotland.
Yeah.
There'll be a good bit of hype around it as well.
Yeah, and there won't be a huge amount of other things happening because the Rugby World Cup is later, the World Athletics Championships are later. So we'll be kind of looking for something to do other than watching the hurling championship.
Mary in Banagher says Wimbledon and the Strawberries and Cream, snooker at the Crucible, the Masters, and Tiger stroll down the 18th. I think that is my wish for 2019.
That's you or the texter?
That's the texter, Mary in Banagher. Tiger strolling down the 18th on the Sunday at Augusta. That might be as good as it gets.
Maybe.
You're not convinced, Sinead?
No, I haven't bought into the Tiger Woods comeback thing as being this amazing, heartwarming story. I'm just like, grand. Sorry.
It's down and out.
Is that just from a woman's point of view?
I am looking forward to the Open, though.
Oh yeah, well, the biggest sporting event in this country is possibly ever is Royal Portrush in July, and the Open taking place up there. So we've the Irish Open at Lahinch. Hopefully Rory McIlroy turns up. Yeah,
there's questions over that, isn't there? He's not hosting it this year.
No, he's not hosting it. Paul McGinley is hosting it down in Lahinch this year.
And it means he'd have 3 competitions in a row.
If he has said he wants to play the week before every major, so the Scottish Open is the week before the Open, and he doesn't want to play 3 weeks in a row, which would rule out the Irish Open, I still have a feeling he will play the Irish Open and not play the Scottish Open because he's a good relationship with Paul McGinley and change his plans, hopefully, because it's always good to see him here.
Couldn't imagine him not playing it, could you?
No, I don't think it'd be. I'm not sure he's overly bothered about PR, but I think just you play your home Open, especially after all he's done for it. I think we're done for time. John Giles is waiting patiently to come in and look back on City against Liverpool. Thanks a lot, Sinead, for coming in. Sinead O'Carroll from the Journal, Andy Lee and Banty McEnaney. Best of luck in 2019 with the under-20s.
Thank you.
All Ireland glory.
Please, if we could win it. We've only won maybe 2 or 3 Ulsters in 70 or 80 years, so if we could come close to one of them, we'd be going well.
Playing it down as always, never leaves you. Great stuff. All right, the panel will be up on offtheball.com. Up next, we're talking to John Giles.
Join that conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents.
With uncertainty surrounding house prices, don't get detached from the market in 2019. In part 1 of the 16th annual Sunday Times Property Price Guide, read our expert analysis on the winners and losers in each of Dublin's postcodes. Plus, get your free copy of Tom Kerridge's book, Lose Weight for Good. Pick up a copy of the Sunday Times this weekend.
At the Plaza Group, winning national awards are always nice, like the best motorway service station and best forecourt facilities at the Galway Plaza. But ensuring you're a happy customer is the real prize for us. Quality fuel in forecourts, Supermax, Papa John's Pizza, Super Subs, Spar, Beauty's Coffee and Max Place Deli make us part of your journey. The Plaza Group, Galway Plaza, Barack Obama Plaza, Tip Town Plaza, Mallow N20 Plaza and Charlestown Service Station. Award-winning and part of your community.
The Ryanair seat sale is here! Time to book your next holiday getaway from only $19.99. Visit Ryanair.com and choose from over 200 amazing destinations. Ryanair, low fares made simple. Limited availability. See Ryanair.com.
Volkswagen Financial Services has a product that could transform your business in 2019. Interested? It can remove depreciation costs on your entire fleet, free up cash flow for your business, and with fixed monthly payments, your fleet costs will always be the same. Sounds good, right? It also has a low cost of entry, and if your driver needs assistance, they'll call us, not you. And this product's name? Leasing, from Volkswagen Financial Services. So whether your business requires 1 or 100 vehicles, our leasing product can benefit you. Before you update your 191 fleet, visit vwfs.ie/leasing or call into your local authorised Volkswagen, Audi, Seat, Skoda or Volkswagen commercial vehicle retailer today. Terms and conditions apply.
Mattresses-delivered.ie. Nationwide delivery within 48 hours for free. That's mattresses-delivered.ie. Lowest prices guaranteed. Don't forget the hyphen. T's and C's apply.
New year, new you? What does that even mean? A nip and tuck? A new fitness regime? Maybe travelling the world in a new camper van? Or popping to Fiji to top up your tan? Is it taking that trip you'll never forget? we're just making 2019 the best year yet. It's the new year, new anything jackpot. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €3.5 million. Play responsibly, in-app, in-store or at lottery.ie. Lotto, time to play.
At Power City, we have the full range of Dyson cleaners, from the Kinetic Big Ball Animal to the latest Dyson Cyclone V10, which gives you all the power without the cord. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Since Grand Slams were clinched in the corner and late, since being there was simply an unbreakable date.
Get a quote or renew your car insurance online now with Aviva, and you could be in with a chance to win a Six Nations golden ticket. That's a 3-night trip to Rome to see Ireland versus Italy, and 2 weekend breaks in Dublin to see Ireland take on England and France at the Aviva Stadium. Go online at aviva.ie to get your quote.